My wife skipped our anniversary to attend her ex's birthday, so I secretly set the perfect trap, teaming with a past victim to expose her true face. If this keeps up, we should just get a divorce, she said. In the past, those words would have terrified me. I would have cried and apologized endlessly. But this time, I simply responded calmly, "All right." She froze, unprepared for my reaction. When Lucy finally returned home, cheerful and carefree, I was throwing untouched food into the trash. The previous night had been our wedding anniversary. She had suggested earlier that celebrating just the two of us would be dull and proposed inviting friends over instead. I had taken the day off work to prepare, shopping for ingredients, cleaning the house, arranging the living room, and cooking an elaborate meal. But I waited all night. No guests arrived, not even my wife. It was through social media that I discovered where she had gone: Lucas's birthday celebration. His birthday had already been celebrated just a month prior. In one of the photos, Lucas had a dab of cream on his nose, his cheek playfully pinched by someone wearing a wedding ring identical to mine. The caption read, "Someone insists on celebrating my birthday on the 18th of every month. It's wonderful to feel so cherished." Lucy glanced at the steak I had just discarded. "If you can't cook well, don't waste food," she said. In the past, I might have argued with her, demanding to know why she had abandoned me on our anniversary to be with him. But now I didn't feel the need to engage. I simply resumed cleaning up the remnants of last night's preparations. Lucy suddenly pointed to a takeout box she brought home. "Nathan, I brought you some cake," she said. It was her usual tactic, bringing me treats whenever she thought I was upset, assuming food could fix everything. I looked at the cake. It was a leftover from Lucas's party. Who packs a birthday cake in a takeout box? "Have some, babe," she added before heading to the bathroom. "I'm going to shower." As she disappeared into the bathroom, I continued cleaning, throwing out the trash while arranging the flowers on the table. Her phone lit up with a message. Lucy always put her phone on silent when she came home, a habit that had stopped surprising me long ago. The screen displayed a message from Lucas. "Lucy, you were so naughty last night. My waist still hurts." I stared at the screen, my grip tightening on the scissors I was holding. Lucy stormed out of the bathroom, snatching the phone from my hand. "You're always trying to spy on me, Nathan," she snapped. The scissors slipped and cut into my palm. Blood began dripping immediately. Lucy barely glanced at me, muttering, "You're so careless." She added reluctantly, "Come on, I'll take you to the hospital." I didn't argue. The wound was deep and stung terribly. As we drove, I noticed something new in our car: two small dolls on the dashboard, a woman and a man locked in a kiss. The names Lucy and Lucas were engraved on them. Noticing my gaze, Lucy explained hastily, "Lucas thought the car looked too plain, so he gave me these as a gift." I pressed the gauze against my palm, keeping my tone even. "It's fine." I remembered the time when I placed a small figurine on the dashboard shortly after we bought the car. Lucy had thrown it out, calling it impractical and distracting. Seeing that I wasn't reacting, she glanced at me with a puzzled expression. "You're not angry?" she asked. Why would I let it bother me? I didn't care about her anymore, so why let her actions affect me? I stared straight ahead, refocusing. "I need to catch up on the work I've missed today. Let's get to the hospital quickly." Lucy sped up as she noticed the blood starting to seep through the gauze on my hand. Just before we reached the hospital, her phone rang. She glanced at me nervously, but when she saw my calm expression, she answered the call. "Baby, my back hurts so much I can't move. It must be from last night. You need to come help me." Although she didn't put the call on speaker, her voice was still audible. I turned my gaze to the window, pretending I hadn't heard anything. Lucy hung up, then pressed the accelerator and took a sharp right, heading toward Lucas's place. As we passed the pharmacy, she abruptly stopped the car, ran inside, and came back with a tube of massage cream. She then drove directly to his apartment. When we arrived, Lucy hurriedly got out of the car. "I'll just grab a document. I'll be back in 5 minutes," she said, locking the car. I stayed behind, my dizziness worsening as the pain in my hand intensified. Blood soaked through the bandage, spreading quickly. I lost consciousness at some point, only to later learn that passers-by had found me, smashed the car window, called an ambulance, and got me to the hospital. That evening, Lucy finally came home. I was quietly sipping porridge, pale and exhausted. "Where's my dinner?" she asked. She was fully aware of my injury but had still insisted she'd be home for dinner. I had only ordered food for myself. I didn't even look up or check my phone. Lucy noticed a cake on the table, untouched. "You didn't eat the cake?" she asked. I muttered weakly, maybe it went bad after sitting out too long. Seemingly remembering something, Lucy pulled a small gift bag from her pocket. "Here's a new perfume." I finished the last sip of porridge, my lips colorless and drained of blood. "You can give it to someone else," I said flatly. "I'm allergic to perfume." Lucy froze. Early in our relationship, she had once given me perfume, and I had told her then about my allergy. She had been embarrassed at the time. Now it seemed she had forgotten until this moment. Setting down the bowl, I picked up my phone, moved to the couch, and began watching funny videos, laughing softly. Noticing the bandage on my hand, Lucy finally seemed to remember my injury. She reached out, but I instinctively pulled back, accidentally knocking the perfume onto the floor. "Nathan," she said, her tone sharp. "All you had to do was wait a little longer in the car." "Was that so hard? I didn't even complain about the window you broke. I remained indifferent. How much to fix it?" "I'll pay," I replied. Lucy couldn't hide her sarcasm. "With the little you make, what difference would that even make? You could never be as understanding as Lucas. He's younger but so much more mature." Lucy and I were both 30. While Lucas had just graduated college, he was 8 years younger than us. Age had become Lucy's favorite weapon in arguments. In the past, I might have argued back, but this time I stayed calm and simply nodded. "You're right," I said. Glancing at the time and realizing it was nearly time to meet a friend, I grabbed my bag and left. Lucy, assuming I was making another dramatic exit, wore a sour expression. "Nathan, now what?" she called after me. To my surprise, she followed me a few steps, a change from her usual dismissive attitude. But when I casually responded, "Just heading home to pick something up," she stopped and said nothing, retreating to her phone. In reality, I was meeting a friend to discuss my plans for divorce. My phone buzzed with a message from Lucy. "Where are you?" I didn't reply. My friend, looking concerned, asked, "She never used to check in like this when you went out. Do you think she suspects you're considering a divorce and regrets it?" Calmly, I replied, "If she did regret it, would it matter?" She shook her head firmly, understanding my resolve. After that, we spent hours discussing the details of my decision. I returned home in the early hours of the morning to find Lucy sprawled on the couch. The TV was tuned to a basketball game, but her eyes were glued to her phone. She didn't even look up when I walked in. Ignoring her, I headed for the shower. After drying off and turning off the lights, I climbed into bed. Moments later, Lucy came into the room. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around me and started touching me. I caught her hand and pushed it away firmly. Annoyed, she turned the light back on. "Didn't you say you wanted a baby?" she asked sharply. For years, whenever I brought up the idea of having children, Lucy had brushed me off impatiently. Now she was the one bringing it up, and I couldn't help but feel indifferent. "I'm tired," I said, lying on my side. "I have work tomorrow." The words mirrored what she had often said to me in the past. Lucy frowned. "You're the one refusing now, so don't blame me later." She slammed the door on her way out, heading to the guest room. For the next several nights, she stayed in the guest room. This was her usual tactic, sleeping separately to manipulate me into seeking reconciliation. In the past, I would lie awake, unable to sleep, and eventually give in. But this time, I didn't react. I slept soundly. It was Lucy who tossed and turned, frequently glancing toward the master bedroom whenever she passed by. For half a month, I stayed composed and unbothered. One morning, when we both had a day off, Lucy hesitantly approached me. "I'm going out to buy breakfast. What do you want?" "Pastries," I replied simply, relieved she left. But she didn't come back that afternoon. While eating takeout, I scrolled through photos in an alumni group chat. Mark, a classmate, had posted wedding photos. In every shot featuring Lucy, Lucas was clinging to her arm, both of them smiling as if nothing else in the world mattered. Lucy's call interrupted my scrolling. Her tone was eager, as if she had rehearsed an explanation. "Nathan, I was out getting breakfast and remembered Mark's wedding was today. One of the bridesmaids canceled last minute, so they asked me to step in." I was actually planning to bring you along. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Well, congratulations to him. Aren't you angry? She asked cautiously. Why should I be? There was a long pause on the line, so long I thought the call had dropped. Just as I was about to hang up, Lucy's voice broke the silence. Nathan, I know things have been tense between us lately, but can we talk when I get home? I didn't respond immediately, letting the silence stretch. We'll see, I said nonchalantly, then hung up without waiting for her reply. That evening, Lucy returned earlier than usual. She hesitated at the doorway, her usual confidence replaced by unease. She was holding a bouquet of flowers, a gesture that felt more performative than sincere. These are for you, she said, extending them awkwardly. I know I've been distant. I want to make things better. I accepted the flowers without a word and placed them on the table. The silence in the room was heavy as she shifted uncomfortably, waiting for me to respond. Nathan, she began, I've been thinking about us. I want to fix things. I know I've made mistakes, but I still love you. For a moment, I studied her. The woman who once made me feel cherished now felt like a stranger. Her words rang hollow, lacking the sincerity I needed to hear. Lucy, I said, my voice steady. Do you love me, or do you just hate the thought of losing control? Her eyes widened slightly, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. She opened her mouth to protest, but I held up a hand to stop her. I've spent years bending over backward trying to make this marriage work, I continued. But love isn't about keeping score or playing games. It's about respect, trust, and partnership. Can you honestly say we have that? She fell silent, her gaze dropping to the floor. I deserve more than this, I said firmly, and frankly, so do you. But we won't find it together. The finality of my words seemed to hit her like a wave. She looked up, her expression a mix of disbelief and desperation. Are you leaving me? She asked. I'm choosing myself, I replied. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of clarity and peace. There was no anger, no lingering doubt, just a quiet certainty that I was making the right decision. Lucy sat down heavily on the couch, staring into the distance. She didn't protest or argue, and I took that as my cue to leave the room. In the bedroom, I began packing a small suitcase. The task felt surreal but also liberating. I wasn't running away, I was reclaiming my life. When I emerged with my bag, Lucy was still sitting in the living room, motionless. I'll be staying at a hotel for a while, I said calmly. We'll figure out the logistics later. As I reached the door, she finally spoke. Nathan, I didn't realize how much I was losing until now. I paused but didn't turn around. Sometimes we only appreciate what we had once it's gone, I said softly, then stepped outside, closing the door behind me. The night air was cool, and for the first time in years I felt truly free. My path was uncertain, but it was mine to choose. The story wasn't over. My life was just beginning. As I stepped out into the cool night air, I felt an unfamiliar yet liberating sense of calm wash over me. The city lights blurred as I walked, my mind clearer than it had been in years. I wasn't sure where I was going, but for the first time in a long time, it didn't matter. Every step away from that house felt like a step toward reclaiming myself. I booked a room at a small, unassuming hotel a few blocks away. It wasn't luxurious, but it was quiet, clean, and most importantly, mine. The receptionist handed me the key with a warm smile, her casual kindness grounding me in a moment that still felt surreal. The room was modest, just a bed, a desk, and a single window overlooking the city. I dropped my bag and sank onto the bed, letting the weight of the day catch up to me. Exhaustion clung to my body, but my mind was already racing toward the future. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, waking me earlier than I anticipated. My phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand, notifications piling up, missed calls from Lucy, messages from mutual friends, even a few from her family. Each one urged me to talk things out or give her another chance. I silenced the phone without opening a single message. Instead, I made a list, something I hadn't done in years, focusing solely on what I wanted, what I needed. The first item was obvious, meet with a lawyer. The second, find a new place to live. The third, rebuild, step by step. Before I could overthink it, I called the number my friend had recommended during our conversation about the divorce. The lawyer's assistant answered promptly. and within minutes I had an appointment scheduled for the following week. It was a small step, but it felt monumental. Later that day, I decided to visit the cafe where I used to spend quiet afternoons before everything became so complicated. The familiarity of the place was a comfort, the smell of freshly brewed coffee, the sound of light chatter and clinking mugs. I ordered my usual drink and found a seat by the window, letting the moment anchor me. As I sipped my coffee, my thoughts were interrupted by a voice. "Nathan, is that you?" Looking up, I saw a familiar face, Megan, an old friend from college. Her warm smile was a welcome sight. "Wow, it's been ages," she exclaimed, sliding into the chair across from me without hesitation. "How have you been?" For a moment, I hesitated. How do you summarize years of heartbreak, disappointment, and the decision to finally walk away? But Megan's kind eyes invited honesty. "I'm starting over," I said simply, the words feeling both heavy and freeing. Her expression softened, and she reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "Starting over can be scary, but it can also be the best thing you'll ever do. If you need anything, someone to talk to, help with anything, just let me know." Her sincerity brought a lump to my throat. "Thank you, Megan, I mean it." When evening descended upon the modest hotel room, I surrendered to the weight of introspection that had been building throughout the day. The sterile silence of my temporary sanctuary provided the perfect backdrop for the mental reckoning I could no longer postpone. Lucy's image materialized in my mind's eye with startling clarity, yet the emotions it evoked surprised me. Gone were the familiar pangs of heartbreak or desperate yearning that had once consumed me. Instead, I found myself studying her face with the detached fascination of an anthropologist examining an intriguing specimen. What psychological mechanisms would trigger within her when the full reality of my departure finally crystallized? Would she marshal her considerable charm and manipulation skills for one final campaign to reclaim me, or had her emotional investment in our marriage already withered to the point where my absence would register as mere inconvenience rather than genuine loss? My philosophical musings were abruptly interrupted by the harsh blue glow of my phone screen. An email notification had materialized, bearing the formal letterhead of the law firm I had contacted. The message was businesslike and efficient, confirming the appointment I had scheduled while simultaneously attaching a comprehensive checklist of documentation required for divorce proceedings. As I scrolled through the itemized list, my expression darkened with the dawning realization of the bureaucratic labyrinth that lay ahead. Joint bank statements, investment portfolios, insurance policies, mortgage documents, a paper trail of shared financial entanglements that Lucy had systematically managed and, more importantly, controlled throughout our marriage. The irony wasn't lost on me that in seeking to reclaim my independence, I would first need to navigate the very systems from which she had subtly excluded me, making me believe I was incapable of handling such complexities alone. 48 hours passed in a blur of manila folders and financial statements, before fate delivered another unexpected twist. While methodically sorting through years of accumulated paperwork, my phone chimed with an incoming message from a number I didn't recognize. The text was brief but loaded with implications. "Nathan, I know you've left. I don't blame you, but I think you should know something. Call me when you're ready." The sender remained anonymous, yet something about the message's tone, urgent yet carefully restrained, cryptic yet oddly compassionate, sent an electric current of anticipation through my nervous system. Who else knew about my situation, and what knowledge did they possess that they felt compelled to share? Against my better judgment, I dialed the number. A deep, unfamiliar voice answered on the first ring. "I wasn't sure you'd call," the man said. "My name is Adam. I think we need to talk about Lucy." My pulse quickened. "What about her?" Adam hesitated, then spoke with a calm intensity. "There are things you don't know, things that could change everything." The air around me seemed to freeze. "What kind of things?" "Not over the phone," he replied. "Can you meet me tomorrow? I think you deserve to hear the truth." The intrigue left me both anxious and determined. What truth could possibly make this more complicated? As I hung up, I realized I was stepping into uncharted territory, not just with Lucy but with the life I was beginning to rebuild. Whatever came next, I would face it head on. This wasn't just about escaping the past anymore, it was about uncovering it. The next day, I met Adam at a quiet cafe downtown. He was tall, with a steady gaze that suggested he had weighed every word he was about to say. As I sat across from him, my heart pounded with a mix of apprehension and determination. "Nathan," he began, his voice low but firm, "you deserve to know what's been going on behind the scenes. I was once in a similar situation to yours. Lucy has patterns. Patterns she's repeated with people like Lucas and others before him." I leaned in, every fiber of my being on edge. "What do you mean?" Adam unfolded a small folder, sliding it across the table. Inside were photographs, emails, and documents, evidence of Lucy's tangled web of deceit. It wasn't just infidelity, it was financial manipulation, emotional exploitation, and a trail of broken promises to others who had once been in my shoes. "She targets men who trust too easily, who give too much," Adam explained. "She builds a facade of being the perfect partner, but behind it, she's always looking for the next thrill, the next conquest. Lucas isn't special to her, he's just the latest." The weight of his words sank in as I flipped through the evidence. Each piece felt like a puzzle snapping into place, finally revealing the full picture of the woman I thought I had loved. "But why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Adam met my gaze. "Because I've seen her destroy too many lives. I couldn't save the others, but I can help you walk away stronger, and if you're ready, you can ensure she doesn't do this to anyone else." That evening, as I returned to the hotel, I felt a clarity I hadn't known in years. For so long, I had let Lucy define my worth, my choices, my life. But no more. Adam's revelations weren't just about Lucy, they were about me reclaiming my power. I opened my laptop and began drafting a message to Lucy. It wasn't angry or emotional, it was precise, outlining the terms of our divorce, the division of assets, and my intention to move forward without her. I attached a scanned copy of the documents Adam had shared, ensuring Lucy knew that I wasn't the naive man she thought she could manipulate. The email ended simply, "This is the last time you will hear from me directly. My lawyer will handle the rest." As I hit send, I felt an overwhelming sense of liberation. I wasn't leaving quietly, nor was I leaving broken. I was leaving on my terms. The weeks that followed unfolded like a tempest I had mentally prepared myself to weather. Lucy transformed into a desperate woman cornered by her own deceptions, unleashing every weapon in her emotional arsenal. First came the tearful phone calls at ungodly hours, her voice cracking with manufactured vulnerability as she pleaded for forgiveness. When tears failed to move me, she shifted tactics, her tone hardening into bitter accusations about my supposed coldness and ingratitude. Her final gambit involved thinly veiled threats about what she might do to herself or our shared assets if I proceeded with the divorce. Through it all, I maintained my resolve like a lighthouse standing firm against crashing waves. Adam's steady counsel and my lawyer's professional expertise became my anchors, guiding me through the treacherous, legal waters with a fortitude I never knew resided within me. Meanwhile, Lucas's carefully constructed world began its spectacular collapse. The damning evidence of Lucy's web of lies spread like wildfire through their social circle, each revelation more devastating than the last. Friends who had once envied his relationship with the charismatic Lucy now looked upon him with a mixture of pity and awkward discomfort. He contacted me precisely once during this period, his voice hollow and confused as he asked how I had managed to endure such systematic betrayal for so many years. The question hung in the air between us, heavy with implications neither of us wanted to explore. I chose silence as my response, letting the call end without offering him the closure he sought. That chapter of my life had already been sealed shut, and I had no intention of reopening it for anyone's benefit. Months later, as autumn painted the city in shades of gold and crimson, I found myself standing on the balcony of my new apartment, surveying the urban landscape that stretched endlessly before me. The chaos and heartbreak of my previous life felt like scenes from someone else's story now, replaced by the profound satisfaction that comes from building something meaningful from nothing. I had secured a position at a progressive marketing firm, where my ideas were valued and my contributions recognized. Old friendships, once neglected in favor of Lucy's demanding social calendar, had been carefully restored through patient effort and genuine remorse. Most surprisingly, I had begun rediscovering creative pursuits that had been buried under years of emotional exhaustion. Photography walks through the city, weekend painting sessions, and even a pottery class that reminded me of the simple joy found in creating something beautiful with my own hands. As I sipped my coffee, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Megan, inviting me to a weekend getaway with some old friends. I smiled, realizing how far I had come, not just physically but emotionally. Before stepping back inside, I took one last look at the horizon. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the city. It felt symbolic, a new chapter beginning as the old one faded into memory. For the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And that, I realized, was the most powerful ending to my story. A life reclaimed, a spirit unbroken, and a future entirely my own.